It's Thursday. You know what that means.
Yeah?
Yeah? Welcome, everyone, to episode 340 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, the F and Marks.
I'm Jay. He is.
I am the Brainless one.
Yeah. All right. We mentioned it last week that we were going to be going at a different time, and it is today. Usually it's Fridays at 6:30, but this week we have a special Thursday edition of the F and Marks podcast.
Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah?
So.
Why the hell that looks so damn small to me?
I don't know.
Am I that old that it's just starting to get more difficult to see these things?
I think so.
Probably.
Now, anyway, there were a decent amount of things that happened in the past few days. Certainly we could get into, CM Punk made his official designation, and he kind of toured every show in WWE. I thought it was really cool that he showed up at Deadline and had that segment in the ring with Shawn Michaels.
The unplanned segment with Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
So awkward.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Continue.
No, I love the fact that he wore the Bret Hart outfit, and I'm sure Shawn Michaels was completely fine with it, and Bret Hart loves CM Punk, so great stuff. I enjoyed the heck out of that. Chris Brown, how you doing, sir? Thank you for tuning in.
What's up, Chris Brown?
And we found out Vice TV, which, they have staked a significant amount of their television programming in professional wrestling, and they're continuing that trend where we're going to get, the franchise or the name of the show is called The Nine Lives of, but more or less it's going to end up being the rise and fall of one Hulk Hogan.
Brother.
And that's coming up January 10th at 10 p.m. on Vice TV. Clearly, we know many of the highs and many of the lows. I hope that they have Hogan with a new batch of lies on this, because they're really it warms my heart to hear that he could still put them out like he used to. And quite honestly, I don't know if it's Alzheimer's at this point or
CTE.
Or the multiverse, just kind of intersecting. Maybe these things really did happen somewhere else.
It could be a point, though, Cousin Jay, where it's a combination. It's either one of two things. It's either, like you said, it's a brain injury, whether he suffered CTE from the numerous chair shots that he's taken over the years, especially the unfortunate bump that he took when he ate the tombstone against The Undertaker at Survivor Series 1991, or it's just the fact that Hulk Hogan is so narcissistic that he actually believes the bullshit that he, flows out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for this. I really am. I didn't know because I didn't know about this. So when I saw that we're going to talk about the rise and fall of Hulk Hogan, that's all I thought about today.
Oh, great.
I said, where are we going with this? I'm like,
the Rise TV is doing a documentary on it. I believe it's a couple hours long. Chris Brown commented, with all the stuff that Vince has done and gotten away with over the past 4 decades, shouldn't the title be the Nine Lives of be more about him than Hogan? But the thing is this isn't just professional wrestling people. It's just specifically here. We're doing Hulk Hogan. I think they did Vince last year in this series that they do. And Netflix has that series that, looked like it was going to be dead in the water, and it's been revitalized. So there's plenty of stuff coming about Vince.
Yeah?
Yeah. But I'm sure they're going to get into, the sex tape where he said racist crap. I'm sure they're going to get into the thing with his son, Nick. With John Graziano, that happened all those years ago. And the crap that he said on, the Jailhouse recordings with his son, where it's like, dude, wow. Really? And just so much other stuff beyond that. I mean, the child at SummerSlam in '92 who had a distinct odor, I'm glad the Hulkster was able to put together that album that went to the top of the charts, and gave all the proceeds, to the family.
And introduced the United States to Simon Cowell.
Yep.
I'm very happy that he, I think it's very unfortunate, I should say, that he was unable to be home to collect that call so that we could have gotten the Hulk Hogan grill, because God only knows that I would have bought 37 of them over the years by now.
I wonder if they're going to talk about Mr. Nanny.
Or Suburban Commando.
Yeah. Hey, The Undertaker was in that too with Christopher Lloyd.
Yes, he was.
Yep. You can't mess with No Holds Barred. That is the bar.
Yes. And it's funny too, because I want to say it was on Cornette's podcast, and him and Brian Last were talking about it, and they were talking about a famous rapper, and the rapper said that his favorite, like the person he came to see, or his favorite wrestler was Zeus. And it's like he had 2 wrestling matches.
Well, he had yet another one over in WCW as I think he was Big Z. When it was, I believe, during one of the Halloween Havocs, when they had the cage on top of the cage on top of the cage.
With another cage inside that cage that was on top of that cage with another cage and all the cages.
Yes. It still doesn't rival the Chamber of Horrors match. Punjabi Prison match.
No, nothing will ever top the Punjabi Prison.
Yeah, especially the Great Khali versus Batista one.
Oh, God.
The Undertaker versus Big Show one was entertaining.
It wasn't terrible.
Orton versus the Jinder, I thought was pretty decent.
That was the bar.
I'm glad I helped speak it back into existence.
That was one of your greatest accomplishments, not to this podcast, but to professional wrestling as a whole. You doing that, and then the fact that Becky Lynch mentioned my greatest accomplishment to professional wrestling, which was wishing that Nia Jax would blow out both of her ACLs, which she did.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And it's funny, too, because I was told earlier that I co-host a podcast that nobody has ever heard of, yet this podcast has done so much for the wrestling industry that we should be talked about in the same breath as Broken Skull Sessions and Talk is Jericho.
Yes. Grilling with JR.
Grilling with JR and the drive-through and I forgot the name of the other Cornette podcast that he does. Yeah, and then
what's the one that Bully does on Busted Open Radio?
Oh, that's oh shit.
Now, anyway. Yeah, we should be up there.
Yes. We should be top 10. Solomonster. I have to give respect to the Solomonster as well.
Yeah.
Because he set a bar that I've only wanted to obtain since we started doing this over 7 years ago.
Chris Brown saying, I hear rumors they might bring back the Punjabi prison match for Escobar's feud. Hey, any Punjabi prison is better than no Punjabi prison.
Punjabi prison, though, for Santos Escobar? So hold on. They created this match as a way for the Undertaker and I can't even believe I'm saying it, the Great Khali,
WWE Hall of Famer, Great Khali.
They created this match as a way for it to be part of the blood feud that was the rivalry of the Undertaker and the Great Derp. We ended up getting the Big Show and the Undertaker. We're going to go from the Undertaker and the Great Khali and Big Show and Batista to Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar.
Hey, let's see what the little guys can do.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they're not going to have a great match, because Rey Mysterio, I'll say this right now. I'd be hard pressed to find somebody to argue with me. Rey Mysterio is the greatest luchador of all time, the greatest, Latin American or the Latino wrestler of all time, the greatest masked wrestler of all time, one of the all-time greats. He is one of those people that is going to go out there and have a great match every time he goes out there, even at his age.
Nacho Libre.
Well, to be fair, that's Nacho Libre. Come on.
Take it easy.
I know that the list and the list and the list of all the wrestlers that were, the Masked and the Luchadors and all this stuff between the Ultimo Dragon and Psychosis and Juventud Guerrero and Dean Malenko and, Mil Mascaras and the late, great Eddie Guerrero. But Ray is leaps and bounds over everybody else. I'm sorry. When I think of the greatest high flyers, masked wrestlers, luchadors, it's Rey Mysterio. I have so much respect for Rey Mysterio for what he was able to accomplish in professional wrestling. I don't doubt that if it is him versus Escobar, it would be at least entertaining. It's kind of mind-blowing why they would have that of all the matches to be part of the feud between Escobar and Rey Mysterio.
Well, I guess we'll find out soon, and I will echo your comments about Rey. I mean, there really isn't anybody close. And I know WWE for a while has tried to build that next big, Latin star. And nobody could replace Rey.
No.
In fact, I got a video sent to me from Instagram of one Alberto El Patron wrestling in a high school gym. And it looked like there were about 20 people there. 20 people.
That is so crazy that we've already mentioned two people that are going to be on my top 10 list later today, and I can't wait to get to it. And we're not even 15 minutes into the show.
Right.
Crazy. Yeah.
Mike Rainey, how you doing, man? I know we mentioned it towards the end of last week's show that we were going to do a Thursday show this week. I've got an event tomorrow night, and Brainless One has work stuff on Saturday, so like going, all right, well, let's roll on Thursday. So here we are.
Yeah.
I
mean, what are we doing? Are we impacting TNA? I mean, honestly, does everybody really, really, really want to watch Aiden O'Connell versus the baseball bat guy? I'm not even joking, Jay. I was looking at the matchup before the podcast, and it's Aiden O'Connell, who is the guy who lost to the Colorado School of Mines when he was in college, going up against the quarterback for the Chargers, whose name is Easton Stick.
That's a great name. What's your name? Easton Stick.
Isn't Easton like a brand of baseball bats, if I'm not mistaken?
It's a brand of baseball bats.
So basically what you're saying is the starting quarterback for the LA, formerly known as San Diego Chargers, is named after a piece of baseball equipment.
Yes. I mean, the Giants quarterback is named after chicken cutlets.
Hey, okay. No, we're not going to do this. That's my quarterback, huh?
Well, I mean, you're wearing your Giants hat, so
damn right. I'm very happy with this team. I know that I'll tell you, week one, it was not very fun to watch that team get absolutely annihilated by the Dallas Cowboys. But I'm telling you, this is the most excited I've been for the Giants in a very long time. And they made the playoffs last year.
Right.
I love the kid from Don Bosco in New Jersey, the grown up, the kid, the homegrown kid, you got to love a story like that. And he's better than any quarterback the Jets have had this year.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
he clearly he has the greatest agent in all of sports.
And if you follow me on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called now, if you look at my picture on Twitter, it is now the picture of the agent of Tommy DeVito. It was just so it was so good. I'm sorry. I swear to you, Jay, I am convinced that I've seen that man roaming around in downtown Hartford at 1:30 in the morning after spending the night at Club Blue or at what was it, Brown Bear? Or,
I mean, there's that. There's the Russian lady.
the Russian lady.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good shit.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I'll tell you right now, Jay, I'm looking at all my notes.
Yeah.
I have never wrote the word punk more in my entire life. You would have thought, or at least I would have thought, that I put a list together of a top 10 of things that I can call CM Punk, but it's just my notes is CM Punk.
There's a lot of that there. So Mike Rainey chiming in saying, hearing earlier, Redacted might be losing Dynamite and Collision on TBS and TNT in lieu of WWE programming. I don't know if those rumors are true or not. There was a piece of information that came out in the last couple of days that stated, since the return of CM Punk to WWE, the media rights deals negotiations have heated up. It seemed like they were kind of in a stagnant place. Now, all of a sudden, the return of Punk, selling a whole bunch of merchandise. Oh, by the way, he and Seth Rollins broke it was the biggest ratings gain in a quarter hour in over 2 years when they had that segment on Monday Night Raw. And they just talked. Would this be the ultimate middle finger to Tony Khan?
Yes.
That the return of CM Punk signals the end of his relationship with Turner, only for WWE to take over?
Yes. I listen, I'm not one of those types of people that actually wishes bad will upon people or organizations or something like that. But I'm gonna tell you right now, if the Titanic sunk, and the Titanic, I mean redacted, because of the fact that, you know, Tony Khan doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He lets the inmates run the asylum worse than I've ever seen, you know. And it's funny. They created the Collision show that was on TBS or TNT, whatever channel it was, specifically so that CM Punk could be the star of the show. Now he's no longer part of AEW. He's not on Collision. They let it's because the frickin' Twinkle Toes and the shitheads had to get their way as EVPs. So now AEW no longer has Punk on Collision. Collision no longer gets any kind of ratings over 27 people a week. We now have CM Punk.
More than watch that El Patron match.
He went from wrestling in front of 70,000 people to wrestling in front of 70.
If he's lucky.
If he was lucky, yes. If he was wrestling at Hampton Roads Championship Wrestling, that number would have been cut in half.
That's what the crowd looked like.
And did they have a guy that was dressed up with a
no kitty litter guy? No.
That man really wanted to fight us.
He did.
But I'm sorry, to go back to the original point, CM Punk is now back in WWE. Their relationship with the WWE, or not the WWE, with WB has been rekindled. Now they're renegotiating to get those rights so that Monday Night Raw, which, oh, by the way, spoiler alert, is the show that CM Punk is now going to be on, is now revive those talks, and the thought of WWE going to the WB and getting one of those channels for Monday Night Raw is the double middle finger, and CM Punk is pulling down his pants and mooning Tony Khan. That is just, it's bad. All because this all happened. Think about this. Tony Khan's AEW multi-million-dollar investment with his shitty ass EVPs and his plumber that wrestles and bleeds all the time. All that is going to be down the toilet because Luke Perry, once upon a time ago, decided not to wear a rubber. Because they decided to sign with Jungle Jerk Off, who happens to be friends with the EVPs. And now their biggest draw, their biggest attraction, and their number one seller in merchandise is back on Monday Night Raw, showing up on SmackDown, making an appearance at NXT TakeOver, and is now the hottest and the biggest name in professional wrestling at this very moment. Cousin Jay, I'm telling you right now, I have never been happier as a fan of WWE than I am with the fact that CM Punk is back. And it has, I mean, yes, a small part of it is because of the fact that he shit all over Redacted and came home to WWE. But the fact is, at the end of the day, I am a huge CM Punk fan, and every time he's on the TV, I'm always tuning in.
I've said this many times. Like, I think it's long-term a bad idea for WWE to have CM Punk because eventually he's going to get pissed off and do what he did the last time he was in WWE or, when he was in Redacted. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. Because I enjoy the heck out of him as a pro wrestler. It's not exactly the same as Kevin Owens. I enjoy Kevin Owens as a performer. I think he's good on the mic. But, behind the scenes, I'm like going,
Wait.
I did appreciate the fact on SmackDown where he talked about, like, hey, you mess with me, I'm going to punch you in the face like other people. He put that little bit in there, and he kind of also alluded to it in his promo with Rollins on Monday, where he's like going, you know what? I've just got back here, and the disrespect that you just showed me, I'm going to give you it this one time. You do this again, I'm going to punch you in the face. And I was like going, But, his initial promo when he came back on Raw, like, yeah, he got cut short. And I mean, it was all right. It was all right. What we saw on SmackDown, I think was better. And what we saw, even on TakeOver or Deadline was fun stuff. But I mean, yeah, Punk with Rollins as a dancing partner, sign me up. And if they hold this out till WrestleMania, I'm fine. I think there are plenty of other competitors out there for Punk. His first match is going to be against Dirty Dom at some live events.
Madison Square Garden.
If he somehow, some way ends up in a feud with the Spooky Pals, I'm not going to be upset about that.
Spooky Pals.
There's guys like Drew McIntyre out there for him to go against on Monday Night Raw. And it was clear when Randy Orton came back and went on the SmackDown, CM Punk had to go to Raw. You can't have all the star power. It's like they got Roman Reigns who shows up, he'll be showing up more often coming up soon.
I hope so.
But, he's the top name in the industry. So, yeah, you needed to have more star power on Monday. Between Rollins, Punk, you got McIntyre, you got Gunther. Oh, by the way, please sign me up for a match between Gunther and CM Punk.
Cousin Jay, you are omitting the biggest name you possibly could that is on Monday Night Raw. The son of a plumber. The American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. Oh!
Using smoke and mirrors.
Oh! You're only smoke and mirrors.
I would love him to add a couple of things about dashing Cody Rhodes.
By the way, really quickly, I love the fact that he could have. It was probably in the last couple of weeks. My Raws keep getting mixed up, and I kind of missed Raw this week because, Giants were playing, and Tommy Cutlets. Okay,
Got
but
you in the playoff picture, baby.
we're in the top 10 drafting wise, and we're only a game out of the wild card. So I don't even know what to think or say, but. I love the fact that they did the bit with Cody Rhodes where he was selling the merchandise at the stand, and there was the Stardust action figure that he hid behind the Roman Reigns action figure, and I love that little thing. Number one, I want to find that action figure. If I get the Stardust one, would be just unbelievable. That I don't care what anybody says. I know he hated that gimmick. But at the end of the day, there is not another human being on planet Earth that would have knocked that gimmick right out of the park like he did. Except maybe his brother.
The only other person I could foresee making that work, Damien Sandow.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Still one of my favorite tag teams ever was the Rhodes Scholars. I loved that they had like the handshake into the cartwheel. It really was something. The two of them together just clicked.
Oh, it did.
And I'd love to see a dude like Sandow come back, but it is such a crowded main event scene. Just in general, a crowded group of stars in WWE. He would end up probably getting the Grandmaster Sexay pop if he came back, because most people probably wouldn't remember the great Damien Sandow.
I think I don't agree with that. I think that if Damien Sandow had returned, like if he came back as Mizdow, like the Miz came out and he went and he introduced him and Sandow came out, I think he'd get a huge pop. That is the intellectual savior of the masses.
Allow me to beg your indulgence.
Silence. I love the way he used to hold the microphone. He was such a
Yeah.
God damn! How did they freaking drop the ball with him, Jay?
John Cena.
Stop me if we've heard that one before. And it kind of goes back to what you said with all this star power. And I know I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but think about the Royal Rumble. Cody Rhodes can win the Royal Rumble. CM Punk can win the Royal Rumble. Freaking Gunther can win the Royal Rumble. LA Knight can win the Royal Rumble.
Randy Orton can always win the Royal Rumble.
Kevin Owens can win the Royal Rumble. Sami Zayn could win the Royal Rumble. Jey Uso. They have so many different storylines going on right now that this may go down as the most important Royal Rumble in the history of WWE.
Since 92 or which was the one where Roman lost the title to Triple H?
2016.
It was WrestleMania 32.
16. It was right before that was the last major pay-per-view WWE had before I became a resident of the Commonwealth.
All right.
I was just a Commonwealth man.
So I've seen reports out there saying that Roman Reigns' WrestleMania opponent has been locked in since September. I've also seen things out there saying that the winner of the Royal Rumble has more or less been locked in for a couple of months. It also put in the caveat like, well, plans can change, but if they already have the Royal Rumble winner locked in, it wouldn't be CM Punk unless CM Punk sells so much merch and does this, that, and the other thing. They could certainly change their mind. They did it with, Daniel Bryanson. There have been other instances where it's happened. All that being said, a couple of the names, though, that you would think might be people that could be either dark horses or could be, even potentially a favorite for the Rumble matches, got injured this week. Charlotte Flair. And it looked like a freak accident from the videos I've seen online where she lost her footing and almost looked like her leg hit. You know how like Sasha Mercedes messed up her ankle by hitting the ropes. It looked like Charlotte hit the ropes really hard with her leg, and I guess was yelling about her knee hurting. So, yeah.
Like I said, I don't wish harm upon anybody. And as much as I hate the way that they've booked Charlotte Flair, the women's division is much better when she is a part of it because she is leaps and bounds the most. She's the most. I don't want to say successful, but she's definitely the most talented of all the women in the entire women's division, and it's not a slight on anybody else. Charlotte Flair is just leaps and bounds as an in-ring performer, better than everybody else in the women's division and all of professional wrestling, not even just WWE. And for me to say, to say what I say about her, if I were to start a wrestling promotion, she would be one of the first women I would actually pick because why wouldn't I? I'd be hard pressed to make her the first pick, period. Because what you're gonna get from her. She's gonna carry the women's division, but she's only gonna do it as a heel. And now with her being hurt, maybe when she
Chris Brown
returns,
is saying that it's his understanding she tore her ACL, which means minimum 6 months.
Oh, that sucks.
So that means probably not back in time for WrestleMania there.
Well, I guess that my prediction of her versus Jade Cargill at WrestleMania 40 this year is out the door. So I guess I'm just going to have to stick with Jade Cargill debuting at the Royal Rumble and winning that bitch.
And bad news for Jade this week. Her mom passed away after a long battle with cancer. So Jade is not at the Performance Center, not training right now, doing the most important thing, being with her family during this time. So.
Including former Red Sox legend Brandon Phillips, who hit one of the most iconic home runs in that 2018 glorious season that the Red Sox had 5 years ago, which all feels like a pipe dream. Watching all these teams getting better, and the Red Sox are trying to find Mark Bellhorn again.
All right,
but that's unfortunate for Jade. I'm sorry. I hate to see something like that happen, and I'm glad that she's taking the time, and they're obviously going to give her the time. So, we talked about it with Triple H after his medical issue that he had. He has more of an understanding and is very much more family oriented. So I'm glad that they're giving her the time, and I'm glad that she's with her family because that's very important, and that's the most important thing at the end of the day.
Yeah. And also on the injury front, we talked last week on the show that Sami Zayn had requested time off and was granted it, but it sounds like simultaneously he got injured. And it sounds like he might have tear in his meniscus in his knee, which that's not like a serious knee injury, but that'll keep you out like 6-ish weeks. Which would put you pretty darn close to the Royal Rumble. So it's possible Sami Zayn might not be healed in time, but he might be able to be there. I guess we'll see, though.
Only time will tell.
Yeah, they've been a little bit tight-lipped as far as all that, whether it's, injury angle to, allow him some vacation time or legit hurt, but we've been hearing a bit that like he has surgery that he has to have.
It's unfortunate, and I hope that speedy recovery for Sami Zayn. I'd love to see him come back for the Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
I mean it's just a shame that his best friend wasn't able to snap a ligament in his jaw eating too many cupcakes and catering.
Well, I mean it's probably because his friend broke his fingers, or his hand, or all that fun stuff.
Fuck Kevin Owens.
Yeah?
Yeah?
Speaking of somebody that you probably will have the same reaction to, Ryback.
The Ryback?
The Ryback. After Bill Goldberg last week gave a spear on the home turf of the Atlanta Falcons, who he played for during his professional football career. He gave a spear to a guy in a Tom Brady uniform, and after that, Ryback issued a challenge saying that he wants to be next, and he and Ryback should have a loser leaves wrestling match. And I would say, if we get that match, please let it be like a double countout. Let them both have to retire. Let them both retire.
I'd rather Goldberg wins the match though, if push came to shove, because again, recently, if history shows us anything, and as a gambling horse racing aficionado, I look at past performances. Goldberg at SummerSlam against Dolph Ziggler was better than any match that the Ryback ever had.
Even when he had 4 guys on his shoulders.
And that's even, this is coming from the guy who was probably the biggest Ryback fan when the Ryback was out there, just because I've said it before and I'll say it again. And if I could actually put squash matches in our F and Marks Hall of Fame, I would. Because I love tag team matches, and squash matches are my 2 favorite things in professional wrestling. And Ryback was the king. I used to love it because they used to let those little shitheads freaking cut their little promos. Not as good as James Ellsworth, but mind you, but good enough. And then the Ryback's music would hit, and he would do this, dude, me more. And he would, wake up, it's feeding. And he'd go in there in like 2 minutes, he'd wipe the floor with 37 dudes.
Right.
And then, he'd go out and he'd be victorious. I used to love it. That was one of my favorite parts about Raw every week, was watching the Ryback. Just like it was my favorite part to watch the Dancing Dinosaur go out there and literally squash people in the wrestling match. But none better than Braun Strowman, because to this day, I've never seen anybody get spiked like Ellsworth did from Braun Strowman. And that's including the fact that I watched Rob Gronkowski for the better part of a decade in the NFL.
It's disappointing that we will never get the opportunity to see the Funkasaurus and the Dino Man as a tag team.
Somebody call my mama.
I think that would be a magnificent pairing, just because you got a dinosaur and a dancing dinosaur.
Here's a little kind of out of right field question for you, and I'm curious to get your answer. Now that the wrestler, known as Tyrus, is no longer part of NWA because he retired. And I want to say that he has said before that if he could go back to WWE for at least one more match, he would be very open to doing it.
Yeah.
Is it out of the realm of possibility that we get the Dancing Dino Man to return at the Royal Rumble this year? Or do you think that's too much of a political headache that WWE wants to get themselves involved in, and which I would understand completely if that was the case with him?
I don't think so. I think a Royal Rumble appearance wouldn't be like him being back with the company full time and causing some big issue. Like I don't see that as being a thing. I don't see it beyond the realm of possibility. I would put the percentage chance at small, and it's just because, again, right now they are so stacked with talent that taking away a spot to put somebody like the Dancing Dino would it's not going to pop the crowd like any louder than they could. Like, I would say there's more of a chance of Hulk Hogan entering this Royal Rumble, I think, than the Dancing Dino.
And it's fine. I understand that. But if we don't get the Funkasaurus and they give us somebody like Tozawa in the Royal Rumble, it's like we could have had the Dancing Dino Man over Tozawa. What has Tozawa done?
He won the 24/7 championship.
Kevin Harvick, who's a NASCAR driver, won the 24/7 championship.
Yeah.
Freaking Rob Gronkowski, who had one of the worst performances of an NFL player, if not the worst performance of an NFL player at a WrestleMania, which says a lot because it's not like one or two of them showed up, was a 24/7 champion. And granted, he wasn't refrigerator carrying.
Was a 24/7 champion.
But come on, Jay, that's comparing apples to goats.
Yeah.
R-Truth is art. That's soon to be inducted F and Mark's Hall of Famer. R-Truth, one
Yes.
of the probably the most deserving professional wrestler in our Hall of Fame since Curtis Axel himself. We're talking about R-Truth.
Yeah.
I could dedicate an entire episode of the podcast to R-Truth. And it would probably be one of the more entertaining episodes ever, because I know for a fact that not only am I a huge fan of R-Truth, I know for a fact you're a huge fan of R-Truth, and we'd probably be sitting here laughing our asses off talking about R-Truth. Which, by the way, I am now pissed off at the Spooky Pals for beating up R-Truth on Monday. He was,
He's
bringing
this
in
close to getting in.
He being a part of the Spooky Pals would be the equivalent of Danny DeVito joining the cast of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. The Spooky Pals...
Going not that far back, Sami Zayn joining Bloodline.
No, we're talking about R-Truth here. We're not talking about Sami Zayn. We're not talking about Sami Zayn. We're talking about R-Truth. We're talking about R-Truth. We're talking about an absolute GOAT. One of my personal favorites, because I have never, because you know me, I like to be entertained. And R-Truth entertains me. And R-Truth, since his return at Survivor Series, has entertained me more than both CM Punk and Randy Orton have combined since they returned at the same night. And that says a lot, because I love both CM Punk and Randy Orton. But it's R-Truth. It's R-Truth, man.
Yeah.
Good shit. But I've really been enjoying what they've been doing with him and the Spooky Pals. I love the fact that he tried to get Damian Priest to break on Monday, kind of like how Sami Zayn did that to the Usos and Roman Reigns a few months back. I've enjoyed it. I have enjoyed. Can't believe I'm actually going to say this, Jay. I've enjoyed Monday Night Raw. I don't remember the last time I've ever said that.
Chris Brown is saying, but can Truth give us his own Usi moment, Brainless one? R-Truth has given many Usi moments. He is one of the few people who has gotten Brock Lesnar to break. When he told him that he was going to throw out Paul Heyman from the Royal Rumble. I don't know, you're a big guy.
But I think I could throw you over the top rope, Paul Heyman. Between that, when he showed up in the Royal Rumble and he put the ladder in there and tried climbing the ladder to win Money in the Bank in the middle of the Royal Rumble, that was just beautiful. Him showing up, like you've mentioned before, him showing up in the golf course with the Jinder who was dressed up in actual wrestling gear on the golf course. I would have loved to have
R-Truth
been
in Richmond.
R-Truth, oh God, R-Truth in Richmond.
R-Truth when he turned heel on John Morrison in England, sitting there smoking a cigarette as he beating the holy hell out of him. He's such a goat.
R-Truth
or
is
him on any table for three that he's been on.
I've enjoyed R-Truth his entire career. I was very happy when he returned to WWE because I've enjoyed R-Truth because he's entertaining. And at the end of the day, I want to be entertained. Whether it's a bunch of big, meaty guys slapping the shit out of each other.
Yes.
Or if it's guys like Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee who are going to have these epic matches where they do these crazy, not all the time, but these crazy moves here and there. I get entertained by that. And I get entertained by people like, R-Truth and Santino Marella. I like to be entertained when I watch professional wrestling. It doesn't entertain me when a dude wrestles his fuck doll. And gets hit. Not once, not twice, but 7 times in a row consecutively with the Canadian Destroyer. I cannot believe that an actual Canadian has ruined the Canadian Destroyer for me. But then again, it's all redacted wrestling. So I don't expect any differently, because not only have they ruined the Canadian Destroyer and they've ruined the super kick. My God, they've ruined the super kick. But they've ruined any chance of me being a fan of them. So I like to be entertained, and R-Truth is right near the top of my list of people that entertain me in professional wrestling.
All right. Well, you did mention all redacted wrestling, and apparently there are plans being constructed for one Nick Nemeth to make his appearance in All Elite Wrestling. What do you have to say about the former Dolph Ziggler possibly going to All Elite?
If after they unveil whoever the hell it is that is going to be the giant wet fart that is the unveiling of the Joker, not the Joker, the Devil, and they talk about it, and then Dolph Ziggler comes out and he goes, I don't know how I feel about the Devil. It should have been me. I'd be on board with it. Again, Dolph Ziggler, I've never in 35 years. That's crazy. No, I'm taking that back, Cousin Jay. I don't think he's going to be a fit in AEW. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the only human being in AEW that can sell at the level that Dolph Ziggler sells is Samoa Joe. And we're not talking about wrestling moves for Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe just sells Samoan cookies better than anybody sells anything. I am convinced that Samoa Joe can sell, what was the line from Tommy Boy? He could sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman wearing white gloves. He could sell Samoan cookies better than anything I've ever seen. So the fact that Dolph Ziggler is thinking about going to AEW on a roster full of people who don't sell, and it's not even just Kenny and the Bucks and Hangman Page. Jon Moxley didn't sell shit against Swerve. And I don't even have to watch it. I saw the clips. I hate that company so freaking much that it infuriates me. But if he wants to go there because his brother already works there, fine. I'd rather him go there and collect a paycheck than him be out of professional wrestling.
You know, at this point, I mean, he's in his 40s. Lord knows how long he'll keep going. I mean, he's been going at a pretty solid clip without really getting injured outside of the concussion. And there's been a couple times where he's taken like a sabbatical for, several months and then comes back. So, I mean, he's been putting, a hurting on his body for a long time. I hope he's saved up money. But I think he could still be valuable to a place. I mean, I know I keep coming back to this but Christian Cage is doing the best work of his career as a character. Now, I would say his best work in the wrestling ring was 2011 when he had the feud with Randy Orton over the World Heavyweight Championship.
Agreed.
Character-wise, he is hitting on all cylinders, and he could still go well in the ring. It helped that he had 7 years off because of concussion issues to save his body. The
wear and tear.
Yeah. So, if he wants to go somewhere and get a bunch of new opponents or people that he has not faced that often, AEW has a lot of stars that I'm sure he'd have great matches with. I wouldn't mind seeing that. He'd probably get paid more, no doubt get paid more than he would in Impact Wrestling. What does he want at this point? Does he want to go and have fun and go and make a good amount of money in TNA, or does he want to go and make more money and have maybe some children to deal with? But I think for the most part, Dolph seems like a dude that kind of, at this point in his career, let's stuff just roll off his back and like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to go out there and do my job and be better than you.
And you know it.
Woo, woo, woo.
If Dolph does go to AEW, I will guarantee you to the fans of this podcast, if Dolph Ziggler goes to AEW, I will guarantee you I will watch 2 matches for sure. I want to see Dolph Ziggler go up against Danhausen. And most importantly, I want to see Dolph Ziggler go up against Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
Because he's going to sell the cursing from Danhausen better than any human being on the history of the planet. And I really do think, and it's not even just like gimmicky wise, I really do think that Dolph Ziggler and Orange Cassidy would be a lot of fun to watch. Because Cassidy's one of those dudes that after you get over the stigma of him just doing the whatever and the lackadaisical attacks and everything, he can go.
Yeah.
And so can Dolph. And Dolph would sell the shit out of that orange punch like you'll never believe. I would actually, I'm telling you right now. And if Tony Khan's watching, and believe me, I wouldn't put it past the coked out weirdo to be actually watching our podcast right now. If Tony Khan wants to suck the Brainless one in for at least 1, possibly 2 matches, book Orange Cassidy versus Dolph Ziggler.
All right.
And then Danhausen.
So in contract news, I don't remember us bringing up this name, but one Seth Franklin Rollins, his contract is up in the middle of next year. I know we brought up his wife and her contract being up. Apparently their contracts run parallel to each other. I see that there is zero hope of Seth Rollins going anywhere else.
Oh, no, they're going to back up the Brinks truck.
Like WWE TKO Holdings is getting so much money in. Seth Rollins is an important part of that. Now, if Seth, after this title run that he has, wants and needs to take time off to heal up for a little bit, let him. He has been so valuable to the company. And one thing with his promo with Punk that I thought was interesting, even when he was jabbing at CM Punk, who the crowd was super into, they were cheering for Rollins. They were cheering for him saying this, realizing like he's speaking truth. Punk's speaking truth too, and they love him, but it's like they're not mad at Seth Rollins and not turning him into a heel, even though he is going after the man who just came back with the hero's return. He has built up so much goodwill and stock between, I go back to, he was the one that brought Cody in, and they had those 3 matches, and Rollins lost all 3. Then he had the 3 matches with Edge, and he lost 2 of 3. And he had all sorts of other feuds going on, and he made himself more of a character and more of a star. And it was a combination of a bunch of things. But to me, the thing that like finally like locked it into place was the outrageous outfits fused with him finally like letting go with his personality.
I'm going to tell you right now, I have a tinfoil hat theory that Seth Rollins stepped up his attire game for professional wrestling when he found out that you edged him out for best dressed male at the Marquee Awards.
Well, I mean, and by the way, the Marquee Awards are 2 short weeks away. So make sure you check out all the categories and have your picks ready to roll.
And I'm going to tell you right now, Seth Rollins would get a lot of consideration for Superstar of the Year because he really has been, quote unquote, the MVP of WWE. Because like you said, he had those great matches with Cody Rhodes. He had those great matches with Edge. He had great matches with Matt Riddle. He was, during this entire run of Roman's reign, he was the one of the few people that actually beat Roman Reigns. He
Yeah.
has been a fighting champion as world heavyweight champion. He has beaten everybody. He's taken the title and wrestled against everybody. Seth Rollins, it's just a shame because, like we talked about the main event picture in WWE, this is probably the most wide open that we could have for a wrestler of the year because you have people like Gunther, you have people like Seth Rollins, you can always throw in Roman Reigns. LA Knight has kind of had a career resurgence over the last year. You can't rule out MJF as AEW World Champion. Hell, Orange Cassidy has had a hell of a run as international champion since he won that belt.
The TNT champion, Christian
Cage just could get some serious. Christian Cage is going to be cleaning house. Christian Cage
clearly is getting like comeback wrestler of the millennium.
Jay, he's going to be cleaning house. He's going to walk out with more Marquee Awards this year than Roman Reigns has had since 2016.
Yeah.
And Roman will be winning his 8th Marquee Award.
Yep.
That damn wet his hair. I don't know what it is about that category. It's the most desired Marquee Award of all the Marquee Awards, and I don't know why.
Yes.
Damn you, Roman Reigns. Now, unless, like you said, we got 2 weeks, so a lot can happen. So if Roman Reigns shows up on SmackDown tomorrow with no hair on his head, then by golly, I hate
somebody's got a fighting chance.
We're gonna be in a panic mode. Quick, who's got the wettest hair?
It can't be Triple H.
He doesn't have hair either. It might go to Seth Rollins. No, I might just pour water on Christian Cage's head and say, "Here you go, have another Marquee Award."
Right.
Go fuck yourself.
Oh, yep.
Such good shit. But it's good. I know I sit here and I trash AEW every single week, but at the end of the day, professional wrestling is thriving. WWE is as stacked as it was back in almost the days of the Attitude Era. In the gold, or even we'll say the Ruthless Aggression era. I'm sorry, when they had guys like Kurt Angle and John Cena and Randy Orton and Batista and Brock and all those guys. This is how deep that roster is in WWE between Raw and SmackDown. AEW, for what it is, yes, is still a thriving wrestling promotion that is getting millions of dollars. They're selling out 80,000 seat arenas in other countries. So I can sit here and talk all this shit about AEW I want. They're still doing something right. Impact, or now known as TNA once again, is starting to bring in big-time free agents. They just signed Kushida.
Yep.
They're doing great things. I really do hope that we can start having a chance to talk about TNA wrestling again, because give me all the wrestling. Give it to me. Give me what I want.
You know, TNA has been the little engine who could, like, when it looked like they were, like, down and dead, and, you know, Fight TV came out of nowhere, bought them from the Carter family, and slowly has resurrected the brand. Oh, by the way, Fight TV is now they're changing their name to, I believe, Triller TV. So, you know, Fight TV has built their empire. They have 8 million worldwide subscribers. They built that off of combat sports. They decided that they wanted to change their name, rebrand, because they want them broaden out to not just do fighting sports, but do other sports and other things as part of what they do. So good on them for one, getting TNA Impact rolling as they do. AEW Plus is on the Fight TV app. That is not changing. That's still going to be there as part of that. So when it turns to Triller TV, you know, if you are getting the AEW Plus app, that it's still there for you. So yeah,
such good shit, and I'm glad, because I swear TNA/Impact was Terry Funk at 2006 ECW One Night Stand. I was expecting them to die years ago, and they keep going. It's incredible. And I think it's great because of the fact that they've overcome what they've overcome, dealing with people like Vince Russo and Dixie Carter and Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan. To still be here 20 years later is incredible. And I applaud them for it. Because at any point they could have that plug could have been pulled and they could have went bye-bye.
Right.
But they're still here and they're still kicking and they're still putting out content.
And clearly they're paying wrestlers enough that they can, earn a living. I mean, it's crazy how many, like it used to be, you had a couple of companies that you could earn a living, like a good living, doing professional wrestling. Now there are a bunch of them. So good for the performers and good for us.
And Will Ospreay, before he signed with AEW, TNA offered him a substantial amount of money for him to sign there.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even just WWE and AEW that were interested in him. And he does have connections in Impact because he actually wrestled in, TNA to Impact. But they made this offer for him, and he almost accepted it. So I'm glad to see it because I'm glad that, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin are both doing their thing. And TNA, I'm so happy for both of them because they're both hardworking guys who have busted their ass in the industry. They're a lot of fun to watch. They're part of that. I like to be entertained. Those are the guys I like to be entertained by.
Right.
So I'm glad because at the end of the day, more wrestling is better than no wrestling.
Speaking of more wrestling, it appears that WWE and their lawsuit with MLW is about to be settled. They have informed the court that they will, within the next 30 days, have reached a finalized settlement. No terms have been disclosed, but one thing of note to me is, a couple weeks ago on the podcast, we talked about how WWE was allowing AEW to run in buildings that they had run in, and WWE used to have a thing where it must be X number of weeks where AEW can't be here before we're here or after. And we can't promote them within our show.
Right.
That they're going to be here. I think this lawsuit has led to that going away. Because this was they're a monopoly and they stopped us from, becoming a bigger wrestling entity by doing what they did with, what was it, Tubi TV?
Yes.
Allegedly. So is part of this thing that showing that WWE is not bullying and not preventing other companies from growing is part of that. Okay, we're going to stop doing this thing because, oh, by the way, we're healthy enough. We don't need to kick the little guy out.
Right.
We're doing fine. They are not competition to us.
That damn lawsuit cost us Jacob Fatu being part of that the Bloodline storyline where they had the tribal court. They wanted to be a part of it. Him and his other cousins and brothers and other members of the family wanted to be a part of that, but MLW wouldn't let Jacob Fatu and the rest of them actually be a part of it, and it sucked because that would have been great to see all that. Because I like being entertained.
Right.
But speaking of loss,
hear that is resolving itself. And oh, by the way, another thing that appears to have resolved itself: Yeet. According to Jey Uso's, I think it was his Instagram account, Yeet is back. So the dude out of West Virginia who held the trademark either was paid a good amount of money
or offered a lot of sheep.
Right. Probably that. Right next to what's his name?
Heath Slater.
Heath Slater and his kids.
In his wide by or whatever the hell it is.
His double wide.
His double wide. That's it. I got kids.
I don't care about your kids.
I don't give a fuck about your kids. So let me ask you this: since we did mention Heath Slater,
yes.
is he higher of a chance to appear at the Royal Rumble this year than the dancing dinosaur.
Yes. And I would say if he shows up, there is no doubt in my mind that we will get the Jinder, Heath Slater, and Drew McIntyre in the ring simultaneously at some point.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
And Drew McIntyre will take the heel persona off for a millisecond.
And they do the band thing?
But they're going to do the band thing before Drew destroys both of them and throws them out.
Spoiler alert.
Okay.
If that happens where they have the Jinder and Heath Slater in there and McIntyre's in there and they do the 3-man band thing and then Drew tosses them out of there like yesterday's trash, spoiler alert, that's going to be the front runner heading into the 2024 9th annual Marquee Awards as my mark-out moment of the year. Heading into the clubhouse.
I think there is a reasonable possibility this happens. I want to see it.
And on top of that, all we know is that could potentially lead to the first ever triple threat Punjabi prison match between Heath Slater, Jinder Mahal, and Drew McIntyre. Jay, why are we not working for WWE Creative?
Well, maybe they'll just watch the show and learn something.
In your heart of hearts, how long do you think that I would last in WWE Creative before they finally shit-canned me?
You might last a day.
You give me a day, really?
You might last a day.
I don't think I'd make it to lunch. Because my guess is that they're going to be like, all right, it's lunchtime. Oh, I'll go to the cafeteria, see if Kevin Owens is there plowing through cupcakes. All right, you're fired.
Fired.
I'd just start throwing cupcakes at Kevin Owens and catering. Fuck you, Kevin. Fuck you. Oh.
Yeah?
Yeah? I'd get fired within the first 12 minutes of walking into that building. Oh, what is that? What's that smell?
Dookie.
Vince, how about a courtesy fly? That's such good shit, pal. No, what you're doing is such good shit, pal.
I gotta hire you now.
I swear, I'd be in there for 12 minutes and I'd get promoted to like head of talent relations.
People power.
I would love to be there just for that, to be in charge of talent relations, just because I'd want to have the conversation with Kevin Owens about how he's going to get repackaged as Captain Cupcake.
Yes.
That's going to be a new top 10 list. Top 10 booking decisions if I was head of talent relations. Yes.
All right. Great.
That would be such good shit, pal. Because we already know that, and spoiler alert, number one's going to be Kevin Owens is going to get repackaged as Captain Cupcake.
Right.
And then somehow, some way in that list, it's going to end up being Chris Jericho versus Fandango in a rematch from WrestleMania 29, and Jericho goes over this time.
In a squash match.
And Nicole will be happy.
All right. So A&E is going to be doing a documentary in January on the life of Mark Henry.
Ooh!
Mark Henry is saying that the documentary is close to 3 hours long. I don't think this is in association with WWE, but, you know, A&E clearly has a relationship with WWE, could get footage, I'm sure. You know, Mark Henry didn't leave on bad terms. He's like, all right, you know, I think I got something else to do in my career now. I know the path I want to take, and you don't think I'm ready for that. That's okay. I'll go somewhere else. I'm not mad. But apparently they're going to be covering a lot of parts of his life, he said, that people haven't heard before.
I love that dude. I really do. Well deserving when he won the World Heavyweight Championship. Still has one of the greatest freaking swerves I've ever seen in professional wrestling with that salmon jacket.
I love his music. Somebody gonna get their ass kicked. Somebody gonna get the face kicked.
Top 5 entrance song of all time was Mark Henry's entrance song by the 3-6 Mafia.
Yeah.
It's on my phone. I love to jam out to it every once in a while.
So Chris Brown's saying he would love for Elias and Sandow to come back to WWE as a tag team. Me too.
Me
I
three.
don't think it'll happen.
That's good, though. I'm very happy for Mark Henry. He is such an overlooked wrestler. He was so good for what he was. He was there for. He was a great soldier, loyal for a very long time. He deserves this. And I love the story about him with the cast iron pan, where he actually twisted a cast iron pan. That's how pissed off he was. Oh,
Yeah, they tried to find something that like had Kevlar and wasn't supposed to be able to be bent. And like when he realized, I think he realized that they were ribbing him, and he's like, "Rrrr." And when he bent it, like, I have vague recollections of Kane being frightened of Mark Henry. It's like Kane wasn't a small dude. He was like, when I saw him do that to that plate, that pan.
I love Mark Henry. I really do. Anybody who could get the sexual chocolate character over like he did. Sexual chocolate! Sexual chocolate!
First mic drop ever.
I may or may not have seen Coming to America a time or two.
I ended together Randy Watson with Whitney Houston.
Just let your soul glow. Just let it fly through.
All right. I think that's about it as far as what I got on my list. What do you got, Brainless One? I know you got a top 10 list.
Did we talked about CM Punk picking the show? He picked Monday Night Raw, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to mention that on SmackDown, they've been doing the tournament to determine who's going to be the number one contender for Logan Paul's United States Championship. And, you know, they called me a freak.
Kevin Patrick.
That was a body slam by Randy Orton. Kevin Owens off the ropes. Yeah, that's Kevin Patrick. I can't, he's the worst part about SmackDown now, and it's not even close. But they did announce the 7 participants on SmackDown that were going to be in this tournament, including people like Bobby Lashley and Grayson Waller and all that. And they had one person from NXT that was going to be a part of this match. And it was announced that it's going to be none other than former NXT North American and World Champion Carmelo Hayes. What are your thoughts about Carmelo Hayes being a part of this tournament?
I think it's fantastic to give a dude like that who has a very high ceiling an opportunity to be on the big club and have that bigger, broader exposure in front of a larger in-person crowd and a larger overall crowd so people can learn about him. Learn about how much talent they've got down there. I hope they let him win a couple times, quite honestly. I would not mind seeing him go against Logan Paul, to be honest.
I'd love to see him and Bobby Lashley in the finals.
Yep.
But instead of like him actually having a match, Bobby Lashley's like, Carmelo Hayes, I want you to be a part of my new Hurt business with the Street Profits. But that's
or
just me.
As the WWE on Fox X account said, "Dem boys."
Ooh.
Yeah, kind of fired up Mark Briscoe a little bit.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is great. I agree with you that he's getting the exposure. This is the best chance for him to actually showcase what he has. I would like to see him. I hope it's not a situation where they call him up just to have him lose in the first round to Grayson Waller, because that would just be stupid. And you'd just be wasting him on the main roster. Let him get a couple of matches in, even if he doesn't make it to the finals. More than one match can do wonders for you. I mean, look at Cedric Alexander when he was in the Cruiserweight Classic.
Right.
He made it only to the second round and got eliminated by, I think it was Kota Ibushi. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he's the only one left from that tournament.
You might be right.
Well, that's because Brian Kendrick, was. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. How the hell did I forget that F.M. Mark's Hall of Famer El Jefe's favorite wrestler was also part of that tournament? As well
Ciampa.
as
Ciampa.
talking about Gargano.
I know that, but Ciampa was there too.
I was going to get to that. I was going to say that fellow F.M. Mark's Hall of Famer Sean O's favorite wrestler was also in that tournament. Oh.
Don't steal his heat.
Don't steal his heat. He was going to kill Sean O. I would love to get Sean O on the show just to have him tell that story, but he'll never do it. But, I mean, since we are on the topic of NXT, Jay, did you actually watch NXT TakeOver Deadline?
I did not.
What a great show. I'll tell you, I know I've said this before. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've said this every time I've watched an NXT TakeOver. A average NXT TakeOver is better than any other show that you can have. The worst match on an NXT TakeOver would be better than before 60% of the cards of a premium live event for the main roster. This show was awesome. The Iron Survivor match for the women's was very, very good. It was funny, too, because they announced the 5 women in the match, and they showed the names, and, they started off the way they did with, I'm horrible with some of the names, because that's how it is, but Bea Priestley, I think, ended up winning it, whatever her name is now. She used to be in AEW, and then she was in NXT UK.
Mm-hmm.
But she ended up winning it. But they had them, and I was like, man, Lash Legend's going to be the last one in this because she's only going to have the 10 minutes to go in there so that the other women can actually carry her. And, man, Jay, she impressed the hell out of me. She was in there. She was doing those moves. She was hitting power bombs. I said, I'm taking back every bad thing I said about her since she joined this stupid faction with Noam Dar. She's legit. They have a lot of good women wrestlers down in NXT, and I agree with them that it is the deepest and the most talented roster in all women's professional wrestling is down in NXT. Because they all showed out. That match was great. They had underlying storylines as part of it, and it was fun to watch. The men's one blew that one out of the water. Because I couldn't believe how they were doing it. Because when Braun Breaker came in there, he speared the shit out of everybody in the ring and got a pinfall. And the concept of the match, if you want, just go back. Every time you get pinned, you're in a penalty box for 90 seconds, and then you can come back in the ring. There was 3 guys in the penalty box at one time because Breaker went in there and speared the shit out of everybody and their brother. And when it looked like one of the other guys, like Dijak or Braun Breaker, was going to win the match, it was Trick Williams, who had 0 falls to his name with less than 2 minutes left, scored a pinfall against every other guy in the match and won with 3 seconds left. I jumped out of the couch, and that place erupted. They had a great women's steel cage match that Roxanne Perez was in. She ended up losing, but she had a pretty solid performance in that. Baron Corbin and Ilya Dragunov Baron Corbin's doing some of his best work down there. I know that people shit on Baron Corbin. I'm not doing it anymore. Baron Corbin has earned my respect as a performer since he went down to NXT and started killing it down there. That show from the beginning to the end. I mean, even the freaking the Dragon Lee versus Dominic Mysterio match was fantastic. Everything about that show was awesome. I feel like I am just costing myself quality professional wrestling by not, vesting myself more into NXT like I was doing years ago. And it's sad because I actually do love NXT. It is my favorite show. And since we started doing this podcast in July of 2016, the show I have watched the most of any other show in professional wrestling is NXT. And I know that we said what we said when Vince McMahon went down there after they lost the war with Dynamite on Wednesdays and moved it to Tuesdays, and we got NXT 2.0 with the acid trip logo and all that stuff. It is great stuff down there. It really is. They have a lot of good young talent, and I was blown away at how well that show was. And kudos to the cross-eyed rat for booking the show the way he did, even with that very awkward segment between him and CM Punk to start the show. So if you guys have not had a chance to go and watch that, please go back and watch it. It was fantastic. Those kids do a great job building that show and putting on a great performance. You're not going to be disappointed if you watch it, just like I say after every NXT takeover that they have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And one more thing before I get into my top 10. I kind of spoiled this earlier in the comments section when I saw that this was scheduled for today. So last night, I was on Twitter and I was responding to somebody, and I was talking about AEW Dynamite, and I said, I haven't watched that show in months. I don't subject myself to waste my time and whatever left of my brain cells to watch that garbage every week. And I've even tried, gone maybe a couple minutes, and then I realized this isn't just about the Kenny and the Bucks. It's about a lot of things that make me not want to watch this shit with no direction and pointless storylines. But somebody had the audacity to laugh at me about my intelligence. Now, any other time, I wouldn't care. But with me and my Bristol Eastern education, you would think that if you're going to go after me, you better bring your A game and not have the grammatical errors of a 6-year-old in any of your posts. And when I brought it up to him, the guy had the audacity again to tell me that I am the co-host of a wrestling podcast that nobody's ever heard of and told me to get a job. I had to block him, Jay, because I was afraid that everything that I had posted and then deleted was going to put me back in Twitter jail, where El Diablo Blanco, for just a brief moment, would be very proud of me for the fact that I've spent almost as much time in Twitter jail or Facebook jail or Instagram jail as him and Sean O. And Gags the Clown, apparently. They're all part of Prison Shawshank, and I'm the kid that gets shot by the warden while smoking a cigarette outside of the jail cell. And my dad is red. And Gags the Clown is Andy Dufresne. But I can't believe, I don't know what it is, Jay. What it is about these AEW fans. They have started to become the worst part about professional wrestling. I get it. You enjoy dudes who wear sneakers that explode in a wrestling match and guys who wrestle 9-year-old children and fuck dolls. That's fine. You can watch whatever the fuck you want. I thought that the Firefly Funhouse at WrestleMania a couple years ago was one of my favorite parts about the COVID era of WWE. It's fine. You like guys who want to ruin moves like the Canadian Destroyer and super kicks, be my guest. Watch it. You want to watch a wrestling promotion with a guy who, when he doesn't get his way, he goes and he makes a big stink about it in the middle of a pay-per-view, and then gets choked out by their biggest star, who is now the biggest star again in WWE, the top T-shirt seller in WWE, and oh, by the way, he's still the #1 merch seller in AEW. Fine. You want to watch a guy drink blood from another man's face? Be my guest. But when I come out there and I say and put my opinion out there of how I feel about the product, and you have a problem with it, you can go fuck yourself. I don't know who this fucking clown is, but he wanted to come after me. He follows 1 million people. Do you know how many people follow him? 170. 170. We've had more people tune in for an episode of the podcast. Hell, we had 4,000 people turn in one episode. I don't think that stupid fuck even knows 4,000 people. You guys want to come in here, AEW fans, the elite fans? That's the problem. It's the elite fans. It's the guys who want to root for faux cowboys and dudes who want to shove fingers up other dudes' butts and dance around the ring like a bunch of fucking assholes after they got their biggest star fired because they suck and they're insecure about themselves and they're too busy worrying about playing quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. Gardner Minshew looks like a young buck. I want the Colts to finish the rest of the season without a win because of the fact that Gardner Minshew looks like one of the Bucks. I am tired of it, Jay. They have been the worst part about All Elite Wrestling's fans. They have been the worst part about professional wrestling as a whole. And they played a very, very significant part in me not wanting to be somebody who tunes in every week to watch Dynamite, Collision, and Rampage every week. I mean, not like anybody actually watches Rampage. I'm pretty sure Impact Wrestling gets more people to watch than freaking people who tune in for Rampage. But it brings me to my next point, my top 10 list. And I put a lot of thought. Yeah, I put a lot of thought into this list. I need my glasses because I'm old and I can't see. That, and when I'm going on one of my tirades, I don't want to have my glasses fly off because I don't want to buy new ones.
Yeah.
So this week, I put a lot of thought into this one. I have. This is probably one of the most fitting top 10 lists for the Brainless one, as I give you the top 10 people I hate the most.
The worst.
Honorable mention, I had the whole country of China, just because of the fact that China is the reason why the Brainless one now has had COVID. I'm almost the Ty Dillinger at this point. I've already hit Ferris Bueller's. The next time I'm going to be Ty Dillinger, but I'm not going to be doing the 10, 10, 10. And I'm not going to be coming out 10 at the Royal Rumble either. And I was going to put a certain person who fornicates animals, but I've decided to keep him off the list as well. So, without further ado, the top 10 people the Brainless one hates. Number 10, Captain Cupcake.
Yeah.
I made a little joke about cupcakes and you blocked me, you fat piece of shit. Go fuck yourself, Kevin Owens. Number 9, this one hits close to home, and I know I'm going to get you to break on this one. He was once the 50th best governor in the entire country. Daniel Malloy.
Oh, Daniel.
He was the straw that broke the case. I talk about the cold weather and the snow and the high taxes and the fact that, they just completely eviscerate that entire state. No. It was listening to that fucking retard be our freaking goddamn governor and have to freaking go and do a freaking. I feared every time there was a catastrophe in the state of Connecticut because his press conferences take 3 times as long as any normal human being because he has to fit all the ums and uhs in his conversation. We're gonna plow. Because it's snowing. Yeah, no shit, Dan. Are you just going to tell us this so you can just raise our taxes so we can pay for the plows? Yeah. Yeah, the worst. The absolute worst. It's not even the John Raffio thing. He is that fucking bad. I can't stand that motherfucker. And yet the state of Connecticut has no problem with that dude because they not only elected him again after he was elected originally, but they elected the guy who was just him 2.0. Keep doing what you do in the state of Connecticut. You're never going to see this fucking face there ever again. Except to visit. So they could still,
El Diablo Blanco.
El Diablo Blanco, yes. Number 8, the kid who stole my bike twice. Fool me, steal my bike once.
Douche.
Steal my bike once, shame on you. Steal my bike twice, I'm calling myself the Brainless one 20 years later. Number 7, Cowboy fans. Which is funny, too, because I could have said Yankee fans, and I could have said Laker fans, and I could have said Alabama fans and Duke fans, but I figured that if I put Cowboy fans, that hits all of those at the same time because they're all kind of one and the same. Plus, man, I cannot. I'm sorry. As much as I hate Eagle fans, Yankee fans, and all that, the Cowboy fans just take the cake. The worst thing the Eagle fans have ever done was throw snowballs at Santa Claus. The worst thing the Cowboy fans ever did was exist. And shit.
Man.
Number 6, since you did mention him on the podcast earlier, Alberto Del Rio. He's just a scumbag. I'm sorry. He's a scumbag. I don't have any respect for him. I don't want to see him in professional wrestling anymore. He had his chance and he blew it. So for me, he makes my top 10. Number 5, I don't even know if I should even say this name because it's kind of just disgusting and just vulgar, and you think what Alberto Del Rio was bad. Number 5, Redacted.
Yeah.
In case anybody's wondering, it's a guy that I really don't like to talk about because he is a no good, slimy piece of shit that I will never forgive him for what he did. Chris Benoit is number 5. And you're all probably thinking, damn, Brainless one. Chris Benoit is number 5? A man who is rotting in hell next to Art Briles? Who the hell has who hit your top 4? Well, I'm glad you asked. Number 4, Paul O'Neill. I've been watching sports for over 30 years. I've been a Red Sox fan since I was 5. I love my Red Sox. And believe me, I'm one of those Red Sox fans that every year I find somebody on the team I hate. J.D. Drew, Mark Bellhorn, Robbie Ross.
Treasure. He was
Kurt Schilling now.
Kurt Schilling is on the permanent list.
Yeah, too bad he's not in the team anymore because it was Kane Bloom. That fucking doofy fuck. I have never, in all my years of watching professional baseball, which is 35 years, have witnessed anybody whine and cry and complain on a baseball field more than Paul O'Neill. It was to a point where he cried so much, I was convinced that the Yankees had an endorsement deal with Kleenex. He is my least favorite athlete of all time. I fucking hate Paul O'Neill with every fiber of my being. And that says a lot because players like Michael Irvin and LeBron James existed, and I still hate Paul O'Neill more than any of them.
A-Rod.
A-Rod is another one. I mean, pretty much anybody on the Yankees that wasn't either Jeter or not. I was going to say Posada. I love Bob Posada. I love Rivera. After that home opener in 2005 where he tipped his cap after to the fans in Boston, gave him a standing ovation, I've loved Mo. That and he helped me win fantasy baseball. That's the only other way you can trump that. Trump. But yeah, Paul O'Neill is not only in my top 4 people I hate the most, there is not an athlete in professional sports I hate more than Paul O'Neill. I don't think there's ever going to be an athlete in professional sports I hate more than Paul O'Neill. Number 3, Kenny Omega. If you need to know why Kenny Omega is number 3, I'm going to give you 3 examples. Number 1, he wrestled a 9-year-old Chinese girl. Number 2, he sticks his fingers up dudes' butts. And believe me, I don't care what you do in your spare time. Go ahead. Whatever floats your boat, Kenny Twinkletoes. Do whatever you want to do. I don't care. I don't need to see you stick your finger up a dude's butt in a wrestling match. That does absolutely nothing for the presentation of the match. And oh, by the way, the only thing that was worse than that was the fact that he wrestled for 11 minutes against his fuck doll that he shares with Kota Ibushi. In the same match with that fuck doll, he ate 7 consecutive Canadian destroyers and still kicked out at 2. Oh, Kenny, you could have been so much higher, but believe me, pal, it ain't that bad for you. Number 2, especially after the little interaction this morning, the Elite fans definitely cracks my number 2 mark, and only because of the fact that the only thing worse than Kenny Omega is the fans of Kenny Omega. And I can't stand those motherfuckers. They're the worst part about AEW. I don't even drink and they make me want to drink. So Cousin Jay, that was 2 through 10. Would you care to venture a guess who number 1 is on my list of people I hate the most?
Matt and Nick Jackson.
For the first time in the history of the top 10 list on this podcast, we have a tie atop the list, and it goes to Nick and Matt Jackson. They shouldn't be on my top number 1 on my list because of the fact that A, if it wasn't for those 2 dipshits, we wouldn't have gotten my hero CM Punk to triumphantly return to WWE and get me excited to watch Monday Night Raw for the first time in ever. Since Bobby Heenan was there. But the fact is that there are a bunch of childish douchebags who are part of the most overrated tag team in the history of professional wrestling who do absolutely nothing to enhance the quality of the product. I hate them more than anything else in this world. I do. I'm going to tell you all this much. If I was locked in a room with Nick and Matt Jackson and Putin and I had a gun with 2 bullets, I'm shooting both of them. And Putin and I are walking out. I fucking hate them more than anything else in this world. I really do. I really do. There's not a redeeming quality about them. Balding fucks. Freaking babies. They're not EVPs. Just a bunch of freaking grown children that freaking got fake titles just to make themselves feel better about themselves because nobody in professional wrestling gives a shit about Nick and Matt Jackson. Ever.
Yeah.
Wait. Gonna have a sip of my Pepsi-filled drink.
Yeah. That was an entertaining top 10 Brainless.
Jay, it's not very often I get you to laugh the entire top 10 list. I mean, I know the Cassius Ohno, dream matches now that he's out of retirement definitely had you almost in tears. So the fact that I get you to bring, and that's my whole point.
I mean, I can't wait until he has that match against Grimace.
Just like I said, the greatest what if is
or the abominable Vince Neil going against Cassius Ohno.
Oh man, you want to? If they did that spot where Brock Lesnar superplexed the Big Show off the top rope onto the ring, if they did that with Cassius Ohno and Vince Neil, the arena would implode.
If they had them in a scaffold match, and
God. There's not going to be any life remaining. There's going to be mass casualties. And just the Earth's going to explode. That's what's going to happen. The Earth is just going to crack in half, and we're just going to have just 2 parts of Earth. Because the girth that's going to hit at the same time in that ring is going to absolutely just...
Yeah.
Vince Neil's going to end up in, what is it, Australia? Is that on the other side of the world? Is it China?
Yeah, I mean, he'll end up over at Elimination Chamber.
The greatest comment about that with Vince Neil is like, come on, man, that was years ago. He's lost like 5 pounds. Oh, God, he's not like Cassius Ohno, who magically gained 50 pounds in the middle of a wrestling match. Although if there was one human being on planet Earth that would gain weight in the middle of a concert, it would be Vince Neil.
Yes.
With the Batman shirt.
Yes.
It has to be with the Batman shirt, though.
Yes.
It's gonna, Jay. They're gonna have that match between Cassius Ohno and Vince Neil, and they're gonna have to bust out the freaking forklift like they did for the Big Show and all those guys for the Royal Rumble a few years back, where they had to carry, send all the big fat dudes down to the ring. I think it was 16 or 17.
Oh, I thought you were talking about when Brock had the forklift.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they could have
That's
Brock Lesnar. They could have Brock Lesnar, use a tractor to bring them both to the ring, but I don't think he's going to be able to lift up Vince Neil. I want to say like most forklifts are like a 4,000-pound capacity, so you might need 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
Anyway.
Well, that's all the notes I have. Let me just double check and make sure because I have to. Okay.
All right.
All right. Yep. Just making sure. Yep. Punk and Dirty Dom at Madison Square Garden. Can't wait. I wish that was on the network.
Right.
By the way, real quick on that, I love the long-term story, booking wise, like storyline wise, the long term of that. I've wanted to punch him in the face for 15 years.
Yeah.
I love CM Punk, and I'm so glad he's back. But yeah, that's all my notes for this week. You got anything else there, Cousin Jay?
Well, I mean, I've got nothing else notes-wise. I've just got good, bad, and brainless ready to roll.
Well, I think it's time for our good,
our bad,
and our brainless.
Yeah.
So, Cousin Jay, what do you got for your good this week?
CM Punk on Raw did a lot of really good, really fun things. My favorite, though, was when he was backstage and he ran into Kofi Kingston. And they had a fun little interaction, and he just said, "You're not Jamaican anymore?"
Yeah, I don't do that anymore.
I was just like...
When Kofi hit him with the I don't do that anymore, I freaking died. And just to see them, because they've been friends for so long, and a lot of people are wondering like if Punk and Kofi were still friends, but that sealed. I know that they're friends, and you could tell just from their expressions that they just genuinely were happy to see each other, and that right there makes me so happy.
Right.
So I enjoyed that too. I got to go with. I have a 3-way tie. I had to do it this week. CM Punk not only showing up on SmackDown, Raw, and NXT in the same week, showing up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, because he missed Daniel Malloy just as much as I did. And, yes, having that thing. But the fact that he was down at the Performance Center this week, work it out with all the young talent. I love the fact that he got the pictures taken with all the wrestlers. Him and Cora Jade had a wonderful interaction. And I'm one of those ones like, yeah, I kind of like keeping kayfabe alive, and she's supposed to be a heel. And when he came up to her and said, I love what you've been doing. I'm a huge fan of yours. Keep doing what you're doing. And just like hearing the actual happiness in her voice when he said that to her, because you could tell that meant a lot to her. And then he was like, oh, by the way, April says hi.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed all of that. CM Punk was good this week, but I also have to give it to Lash Legend for such an impressive performance that she had at NXT TakeOver, and to Trick Williams. Like I said, Jay, it takes a lot for me to hop out of my chair the way I did when Trick Williams won that, because it was shocking. I didn't see it happening. I was like, damn, I'm like, they're not even going to let Trick Williams even get a fall, and then like 2 minutes later, he had 4 of them and won the match. I am so happy because Trick Williams went from being part of the presentation, kind of like Ludwig Kaiser and Imperium, to now being his own star And him and Carmelo Hayes are going to have an incredible blow off, and that match that they're going to have at NXT Takeover in April is going to be incredible. So that's why I give all three of them my good for this weekend. I had to do it just because it's not often that we have so much good, and I couldn't just pick one.
All right.
What do you got for your bad?
I'm going with the video I saw of Alberto Del Rio, El Patron, in a school gym, and it looked like not many people are there and what have you. He deserves what he's getting right now. Like, as much as like charges in the various cases that were against him end up getting dropped. I'm sorry, when you have that many things coming up over and over and over and over again, and you're not a political person where they're trying to like take you out as far like politically, like, no, something happened.
Something's happening.
Something happened at some point that was really not cool. And
Carlito.
Right. But I mean, with the attendance at that show, it's like, what did he get paid in, like hot dogs and popcorn? Does he even have a fee anymore? Because like the stuff he's done's just been so bad, and like I guess you got to try to earn a living. But you know, when you've done a whole bunch of stuff, and he's another one similar to Sonny that more or less takes no responsibility for anything. Oh no, yep, just a misunderstanding. And by the way, that person was bad to me, and if you just knew what they did to me, and it's like,
really,
dude, when you were with Soraya, you weigh like 125, 150 pounds more than she does. What can she do to you? I mean, unless she took like a knife out to stab you, like, what can she do to you?
Or like what I want to do to Nick and Mac Jackson with a gun.
So, almost a little bit of bad on the promotion for even bringing the dude in, and he's getting what he reaps.
I like it. That's a fantastic bad. I can't argue with that one. You hit the nail right on the head. And it's only fitting how the mighty have fallen from going from wrestling in front of 70,000 people to 7.
Right.
So, my bad this week goes to Ridge Holland. This week on NXT, they had an angle where he attacked Ilya Dragunov, and he dropped Dragunov on his head. Now, I know that Sean Sapp Ross Fuckstick has come out and said that this is just part of an angle and he's not actually legitimately hurt. That's not something you want to do storyline-wise. Not when a guy who has been notorious for injuring people in the ring like it is. It'd be like if they did the same thing with Nia Jax, where they did a storyline where she just hurt everybody. Well, I mean, it wouldn't be a storyline because that's just how she is. And really, Ridge Holland he needs to go away. He has brought nothing to the table, and for me, he has just kind of squandered what they could do with Butch Pete Dunne. And hopefully William Regal can fix that ship. But to me, this whole thing with Ridge Holland just needs to. He's got to get featured endeavored after WrestleMania. And this is coming from a guy who does not want to see people lose their job, but he should be gone. I'm sorry. He's got the look, but he's just. If you're still fucking up like this badly, you should be in AEW.
Yeah.
What do you got for your Brainless?
Whoever runs the WWE on Fox Twitter account, like, I don't know if they're not wrestling fans, but using what was for 2 decades the Briscoes catchphrase to explain about the Street Profits and Lashley.
As them boys.
Yeah. Like I'd like to think it was done on accident, But even so, that's still something brainless. Like, if you are the person who is in charge of WWE on Fox, even people who aren't super into wrestling, like, if you're running that Twitter account, you should know something about wrestling, and I would think you would know something about the Briscoes. But yeah, saying them boys got my brainless this week. The person running WWE on Fox tweeting that out. Mark Briscoe was pretty fired up about it, and he tagged Triple H like, somebody got to get fired over this. This is just ridiculous. And he cooled down a little bit later and said, no, you don't need to fire anybody. I'm sorry. I just miss my brother. And I'd say his level of reaction was actually perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I don't think the person should be fired, but like everything else about him being pissed off, like.
Yeah, they didn't set the Undertaker on fire, so they didn't need to get fired.
Right.
And honestly, Jay, that's a good one. Fantastic choice. I probably would have went the route that you went, except that I saw before the show that AEW said that Jay Briscoe was already eliminated from the international tournament or intergalactic tournament, whatever the fuck they're doing, where John Moxley is basically just running the G1 Classic on AEW. But they called Mark Briscoe Jay Briscoe. So it's not even just like WWE's social media, it's also AEW social media, and they just have their heads up their ass. But that's not where I'm going. I'm sorry. I love you, but I have to do this. Please cover your ears because I cannot believe these words are going to come out of my mouth. Bubba Ray Dudley gets my brainless. Ugh.
Wow.
Bubba Ray, I cannot believe I'm saying this.
Your spirit animal.
My spirit animal, Bubba Ray Dudley. Bubba Ray Dudley on his radio show for Broken Skull Session. All right, early favorite for Brainless for next week. On his radio show, he came out and said that what CM Punk said about coming home was a bunch of horse shit. Because you said a company that has made you feel like shit and has caused damage to your physical body and your mental health. You shouldn't be calling it home. Bubba Ray Dudley, I hate to break it to you, but I'm pretty sure that there's a whole mess of people out there that have to deal with physical and mental anguish when they go home, and they still call it home. And at the end of the day, CM Punk really is home because there's nowhere else in professional wrestling that he belongs in. So I had a serious problem with him saying that. And believe me, it's making me sound like a serious CM Punk apologist. Eventually, at some point, the CM Punk aura is going to, finally float away from me. And I'm going to start talking, brainless anyway. But it's I think that once all that with CM Punk comes up, I'll probably stop being such a CM Punk apologist, but I just thought it was in poor taste to say that. So, and I'm sure that you probably were out in TNA world talking all sorts of shit about WWE, and you went home. I'm sorry. I can't. It will never happen again. You will not get my brainless ever again. So, if you like what you see, whether you are a first-time fan or a continuous follower, make sure you like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter X. Follow us on Instagram and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS, the F and Marks. If you like, follow and subscribe to us. We will do the same back. That has always been our
mantra. And make sure you set up notifications so that when we are live, you will be notified that we are live. So you can join in the conversation and talk about our favorite sport that we all love to hate, professional wrestling.
The New York Yankees.
Give us a subscription over there on Spotify, and you can take the show on the road with you. So there's that. And F and Mark's Hall of Famer Gags the Clown has chimed in. Fuck CM Punk, total hypocrite.
Was this before or after he crawled through 500 yards of fecal matter to escape from the prison Facebook Catraz? Jesus Christ. Facebook Shawshank.
Yeah. Yes. Anyway.
I think that's everything for the podcast, Cousin Jay.
Absolutely everything. Nothing left unsaid or undone. Yeah, I cannot see anything around me at all that could possibly need to be talked about. What's that brainless one?
This gentleman right here is an iconic figure in professional wrestling. He is that same individual right there. This gentleman right here is a former Intercontinental Champion, a former Tag Team Champion, and most importantly, and I cannot stress this enough, he is the first ever inductee in the F and Marks Hall of Fame, and the only person who has made more appearances in our podcast than you and I have had or have done. And this gentleman right here, today, December 4th, I had to think about the date for a second, December 14th of 2023, at an impressive 3,245 days, this guy, F and Marks Hall of Famer, is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble. So for episode 340 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, the F and Marks.
I'm Jay.
I just burped all over myself. I am the brainless one. Make sure you mark out
with your guac out. See everyone. Have a good week, and we will catch you next Friday.
Friday.
I'm out of town next Friday.
Oh.
Yeah.
We will discuss.
We'll figure out something maybe.
Okay.
I will be in an alternate land.